The day I approached my children for assistance with the electricity bill, they responded with smirks, advising me to figure it out, Mom. What they were unaware of was that I had just gained full control of the family trust that very morning. What transpired next altered everything. My name is Linda Patterson, and I am 72 years old. Before I recount the events of that day, I would appreciate knowing where you are watching from. Please share your city and state in the comments, as I enjoy connecting with all of you. Let me take you back to that morning as my children's comments marked the culmination of years of disrespect, yet it also heralded a significant shift in my favor. It began on a Tuesday morning in March. I was seated at my kitchen table, the same oak table where I had served countless meals to my family over the decades. The electricity bill lay before me, amounting to $247. While not an exorbitant sum, it felt insurmountable. For the past 6 years, I had been living on a fixed income that barely met my basic needs. My husband, Thomas, had passed away 6 years prior, leaving what I had believed to be a comfortable estate. However, the reality was much more intricate than I had anticipated. Thomas had been a successful commercial real estate developer, and over our 40 years of marriage, he had built a substantial portfolio of properties and investments. Upon his passing, everything was placed into a family trust, intended to benefit our family, particularly to support me in my retirement before eventually passing to our 3 children: Michael, 45, Sarah, 42, and David, 39. What I did not realize, however, was that the trustee appointed by Thomas was his business partner, Frank Morrison, who had his own ideas regarding the management of those funds. During the first year after Thomas's death, I received regular monthly distributions, $5,000, sufficient to cover my mortgage, utilities, groceries, and medical expenses with a little left over. I assumed this arrangement would persist, but the distributions began to decline, first to $4,500, then to $4,000. Frank always had an explanation: market downturns, unexpected property expenses, and the need for trust reserves. By the third year, my distribution had dropped to $3,000, and by the fifth year, it was merely $2,500. For the past year, I had been receiving only $2,000 monthly, while my mortgage alone consumed $1,500, leaving me with $500 for all other expenses. In response, I began to cut corners in every aspect of my life. I ceased purchasing new clothing, mending the old ones, like women had done during the Great Depression. My meals became monotonous: oatmeal for breakfast, sandwiches for lunch, and simple pasta or rice dishes for dinner. I kept the thermostat at 62 degrees in winter, layering sweaters until I resembled a walk-in closet, and set it to 80 degrees in summer while hoping for a breeze through open windows. I canceled my cable subscription, newspaper, and book club membership, and I stopped visiting the hair salon where I had been a patron for 20 years, instead cutting my own hair unevenly in front of the bathroom mirror. The small luxuries that made life enjoyable disappeared. I declined dinner invitations, fabricated excuses, and eventually the invitations ceased altogether. The weekly flowers I used to purchase for $5 vanished, as did the mystery novels I loved to read, forcing me to reread tattered paperbacks. I ceased contributing to the church collection plate, a decision that filled me with shame, and I could not afford birthday gifts for my grandchildren, opting instead to bake cookies and write heartfelt cards, pretending that this was a choice rather than a necessity. I learned which grocery stores offered the best sales, clipping coupons like my mother had done in the 1950s, and relied heavily on rice and beans, as well as peanut butter sandwiches. I bought store-brand everything and rationed my medication, taking pills every other day due to the high copays for refills. My arthritis worsened without consistent treatment, but I felt I had no other options. Despite my best efforts, it was still insufficient. Medical bills accumulated, and I needed a root canal I could not afford, enduring the pain with over-the-counter medication and praying the infection would not escalate. My car required new brakes, but with a quote of $800 from the mechanic, I opted to drive cautiously and pray. My roof leaked in 2 places, prompting me to place buckets beneath the drips during rain, and although my washing machine emitted distressing noises, I ignored it as long as it continued to function. Now, I found myself short on the electricity bill. That Tuesday morning, I chose to reach out to my children. I called Michael first, a corporate attorney residing in a Manhattan penthouse. His wife, Jennifer, does not work, spending her days shopping and dining with friends. They enjoy multiple luxury vacations annually. "Mom, it's 7:30 in the morning," he said when he answered. "I'm getting ready for work." I replied, "I know, honey. I apologize, but I have a problem. My electricity bill is due today, and I am a bit short. Would you be able to assist me with $250? I will pay you back next month." His tone became sharp as he responded, "Mom, we've discussed this. You need to learn to budget better. Jennifer and I have our own expenses. The children's private school tuition is due. We cannot keep bailing you out." I was taken aback, having asked him for financial assistance only twice in 6 years, once for a refrigerator replacement and once for an emergency dental expense. "Michael, I'm not asking for much," I implored, but he cut me off, saying, "I have to go. Mom, talk to Frank about increasing your distribution. That's what the trust is for." He hung up, leaving me staring at the phone. Next, I called Sarah, who lives in Connecticut with her husband Rick and their 2 teenagers. Rick is a hedge fund manager, and they own a summer home in the Hamptons and a ski condo in Vermont. Sarah runs a small interior design business, more of a hobby between yoga classes and charity galas. "Hi, Mom," she answered, sounding distracted. "Can this be quick? I'm meeting a client in 20 minutes. I explained my situation, but she interrupted. "Oh my God, Mom. Again?" "Rick and I are in the middle of renovating the Hamptons house. Do you have any idea what that costs? We just spent $40,000 on the kitchen alone." My throat tightened as I responded, "I'm not asking for $40,000, sweetheart. I need $250. It's the principle, Mom. You have income from the trust. You need to live within your means. Maybe you should sell that big house and move into a smaller apartment. That would solve many of your problems." "Sell my house, the one Thomas and I purchased as newlyweds, where we raised our children, filled with memories of birthday parties, holiday dinners, and quiet Sunday mornings. I'll figure it out," I said quietly. "Good. Look, I really have to run. Love you." And she was gone. I had one final option. David, my youngest, who had always been the most considerate of my children, especially following his father's death. Surely he would help. David is a successful tech entrepreneur in Seattle, having sold his startup for $42 million 2 years ago. He and his wife, Amanda, reside in a modern mansion overlooking Lake Washington. "Hey, Mom," he greeted cheerfully. "What's up?" I explained my predicament, trying to maintain composure. There was a pause on the other end. "Mom, I love you, but here's the thing. Amanda and I just spoke with our financial advisor about this exact issue. We contribute a significant amount to charity, over $1 million a year, and he advised us to be more strategic. We can't just give money to everyone who asks, even family. It sets a bad precedent." "A bad precedent?" I replied, my voice faltering. "David, I'm your mother. I'm not just anyone asking for help. I raised you and sacrificed everything for you and your siblings." "I know, Mom, and we appreciate that. But you made choices in your life, and we're making choices in ours. You chose to be a stay-at-home mom instead of building a career. That was your decision. We can't be responsible for the consequences of your choices." "The consequences of my choices?" As if raising 3 children, supporting my husband's career, managing our household, and volunteering in the community for 40 years held no value. "I understand," I whispered. "Goodbye, David." I placed the phone down on the oak table, my hands trembling. I glanced at the electricity bill, then at my checkbook. I had $407 in my account. If I paid the bill, I would have $170 remaining for food and gas until the next trust distribution in 2 weeks. Suddenly, I heard the doorbell. I wasn't expecting anyone, but I wiped my eyes and went to answer it. Standing on my porch was a man in an expensive suit carrying a leather briefcase. He appeared to be in his 60s with silver hair and kind eyes. "Mrs. Patterson? Linda Patterson?" he inquired. "Yes," I replied. "My name is Robert Chen. I am an attorney. May I come in? I have important information regarding your late husband's estate." I welcomed him into the living room. He declined my offer of coffee and proceeded directly to the matter at hand. "Mrs. Patterson, I apologize for arriving unannounced, but I have been trying to reach you for several weeks. Your phone number was not listed, and my letters were returned. Letters? I asked, confused. I haven't received any letters from you. He frowned. They were sent to this address, but that is not important right now. What is important is that I have information you need to hear. I was your late husband's attorney, not Frank Morrison. Frank handled Thomas's real estate transactions. I managed his estate planning and trust administration. My heart began to race. I don't understand, I said. Frank has been managing everything. That is the problem, Mrs. Patterson. Frank Morrison should not be serving as trustee. He opened his briefcase and produced a thick folder of documents. When Thomas created his trust, he named Frank as the initial trustee. However, the trust document included specific provisions. The trust was designed to provide for you during your lifetime. The assets were meant to support you comfortably, and only after your death would the remainder pass to your children. That is standard estate planning for someone in Thomas's position. But Frank has been reducing my distributions every year, I protested. He claims the trust performance has been poor, that expenses are high. I know what Frank has been saying, and Mrs. Patterson, it is all lies. Robert's voice was firm. I have been investigating the trust for the past year after receiving concerning information from one of Thomas's former employees who felt something was amiss. That individual had the courage to contact me, and I am grateful they did. He spread the documents across my coffee table: bank statements, investment reports, spreadsheets filled with numbers. Mrs. Patterson, Frank has been significantly mismanaging the trust. The trust currently holds approximately $8 million in assets. Let me repeat that, $8 million. Based on a conservative distribution rate of just 2.5% annually, you should be receiving a minimum of $15,000 per month. A more reasonable rate would be 3 to 4%, which would equate to $20,000 to $25,000 per month. My head spun. $8 million? $5,000 a month? But I've been receiving $2,000. I know, and it's worse than that. Frank has been taking excessive trustee fees, far beyond what is reasonable or permitted under the trust document. He has been using trust assets for his own benefit and making risky investments without proper authorization. Mrs. Patterson, he has been stealing from you. I felt lightheaded, gripping the arm of my chair. Robert continued, his tone gentle yet urgent. I filed a petition with the probate court to remove Frank as trustee. The hearing was this morning, just 2 hours ago. I attempted to reach you yesterday to inform you, but could not find a current phone number. This morning, what happened? I asked, astonished. He smiled for the first time. The judge reviewed the evidence I presented: bank statements, investment records, documentation of excessive fees. The case was clear-cut. Frank Morrison has been removed as trustee, effective immediately. Furthermore, the judge appointed you as the successor trustee. As of this morning, you have full control of the family trust. The room seemed to tilt as I processed his words. What? You are now the trustee. You control all the assets. You decide the distributions. You have complete authority over every penny in that trust. He handed me additional documents. Here are the current account statements, access codes, and passwords for the online accounts. Here is the contact information for the financial advisor who manages the investment portfolio. He then presented me with a checkbook. There is currently $473,000 in the trust checking account. I stared at the checkbook in disbelief. $473,000? There's more, Robert continued. Frank must return the excessive fees he has taken over the past 5 years, which we estimate to be around $600,000. We will pursue that through the courts. Additionally, you can now set your own monthly distribution at a reasonable level. I would recommend $15,000 per month to start, though you could go higher if necessary. I was speechless. 6 years of struggle, 6 years of eating cheap pasta, wearing worn-out shoes, and enduring winters in a cold house. 6 years of being told there was not enough money, and all along millions were available. Robert stood up. I will leave you to process this. Here's my card. Call me anytime if you have questions. The financial advisor's name is Patricia Reynolds. She is excellent and had no idea Frank was stealing from you. She will assist you in managing everything moving forward. Congratulations, Mrs. Patterson, and I am deeply sorry for what you have endured. After he departed, I sat on my couch for an extended period, holding that checkbook. Then I noticed 3 missed calls from each of my children. They had evidently discussed my situation and coordinated their responses to their desperate mother. I listened to their voicemails. Michael: Mom, Sarah informed me you called her too. We all agreed. You need to stop asking us for money. It's becoming embarrassing. We have our own lives and responsibilities. Figure it out. Mom: I spoke with the boys. We believe you are being manipulative by calling each of us separately, trying to play us against each other. This needs to stop. You are an adult. Act like one. Hey, Mom. Amanda had a good idea. Perhaps we should all sit down and assist you in creating a budget. You clearly need to learn some financial literacy. Let us know when works for you, and we can come over and review your expenses line by line. We'll help you identify where you're overspending. Figure it out. Stop being manipulative. Learn financial literacy. I called my children and requested their presence for an urgent family meeting that afternoon. They all agreed, though I could detect the annoyance in their voices. They assumed I was going to plead once more. They were unprepared for what was about to unfold. At 3 p.m., they arrived. Michael came directly from his law office, still in his 3-piece suit, checking his watch as if he had somewhere more pressing to be. Sarah wore designer yoga pants and a cashmere sweater that likely cost more than my monthly food budget. David appeared in jeans and a hoodie, the casual attire of a tech millionaire, driving a Tesla that was more than anything I had purchased in the past 5 years. They settled in my living room, the same space where I had read bedtime stories and assisted with last-minute homework projects. The same room where I had nursed them through childhood illnesses and celebrated Christmas mornings, birthdays, and graduations. They regarded me with expressions of impatience and pity, as if they were indulging a difficult elderly relative who did not fully grasp how the world operated. Michael spoke first, pulling out his phone and placing it face down on the coffee table, a signal that this conversation had a time limit. Okay, Mom, we're all here. What is this urgent family meeting about? I have a conference call at 4:30. I took a deep breath, my heart racing, but my voice remained steady. This morning, each of you declined to assist me with my electricity bill, $247. It may not seem like a significant amount, less than what you spend on a nice dinner, a designer handbag, or a single night at a hotel during your vacations. But for me, it represented everything. It was about keeping the lights on and preserving my remaining dignity. Yet each of you advised me to figure it out myself. Mom, Sarah began, her voice uncertain, but I raised my hand to indicate I wished to continue. I need to say this. I looked at each one of them in turn. Michael, you said I need to budget better and that you couldn't keep bailing me out, even though I had only asked you for assistance twice in 6 years. Twice. Once when my refrigerator failed, and once for an emergency dental infection requiring immediate care. That does not constitute a pattern of dependency. It is a mother seeking help from her successful son during genuine emergencies. Michael opened his mouth to respond, but I pressed on. Sarah, you suggested I sell my home, stating you couldn't help me because you were renovating your summer house. Your summer house, a luxury that you visit perhaps 6 weeks a year, while your mother struggles to afford electricity in the only home she possesses. And David, I said, my voice catching slightly, you told me I needed to face the consequences of my choices, the choice to raise you instead of pursuing a career. David's face paled. The choice to raise you, I reiterated, emphasizing the 40 years I devoted to caring for this family, supporting your father's career, managing our household, and volunteering at your schools. It felt as though all of that was deemed worthless, as if being your mother was a foolish choice for which I am now being punished. They appeared slightly uncomfortable, their expressions shifting. What none of you knew is that this morning I also had a visit from an attorney, your father's attorney, the real one, not Frank Morrison. Now I had their full attention. It turns out Frank has been stealing from the family trust for years, taking excessive fees, misusing trust funds, and deliberately minimizing my distributions. The trust actually contains $8 million. I should have been receiving $15,000 to $20,000 per month. Instead, I was receiving $2,000. Michael's face turned pale, Sarah's mouth fell open, and David leaned forward in his chair. This morning, a judge removed Frank as trustee and appointed me as the new trustee. As of this morning, I have complete authority over the family trust. Every asset, every investment, every dollar. The silence in the room was palpable. Your father established this trust to provide for me during my lifetime. Only after I pass away is the remainder intended to be distributed among the three of you. That was always his intention, to ensure I was taken care of first. Michael finally found his voice. Mom, that's wonderful news. You deserve to be comfortable. This is great. Is it, Michael? I responded. Because this morning when I called you for help with a $247 electricity bill, you told me you could not keep bailing me out. You could not spare 250s, yet you can afford 3 vacations to Europe each year, private school tuition, and a penthouse apartment. Mom, I didn't know, he stammered. You didn't know I was in a desperate situation? You didn't realize I had been struggling? I have been living on $2,000 a month for a year. You have all witnessed how thin I have become. You have noticed my old, worn clothing. You have seen me decline every dinner invitation because I could not afford it. You knew, you simply did not care. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. That's not fair. We didn't know about Frank stealing from you. You didn't need to know about Frank. You merely needed to care that your mother was struggling. You needed to acknowledge that I spent 40 years prioritizing your needs over my own. And when I finally asked for help, not much, just enough to keep the lights on, you all told me to figure it out. If you have been moved by my story thus far, please subscribe. I share real stories from real women, and your support means everything. Here is what will happen next. I continued. First, I will begin taking a monthly distribution that reflects the trust's value, $15,000 a month, perhaps $20,000. Enough to live comfortably, as your father intended. That seems reasonable, David quickly agreed. You should take whatever you need. I'm not finished. Second, the trust document grants me discretion to distribute funds to each of you during my lifetime if I choose. If I choose. Your father included that provision, anticipating I might want to assist you with home purchases, business ventures, or emergencies. He trusted me to be generous. All three of them stared at me intently. However, generosity is a two-way street, and this morning, you all demonstrated precisely how much generosity I can expect from you. None of you could spare $250 for your mother. Michael interjected. We were wrong. We should have helped you. Are you truly sorry, Michael? Or are you merely regretful that it turns out I control your inheritance? His face flushed red. Mom, we love you, Sarah pleaded. Here is my decision, I stated firmly. The trust will remain intact. When I pass away, whatever is left will be divided among the three of you as your father intended. But until that day, I will not distribute a single penny from this trust to any of you, not for down payments, not for tuition, not for business ventures, nothing. Mom, David began, but I interrupted him. You all have successful careers and earn good incomes. You do not require assistance from me, and frankly, you do not deserve it, at least not after today. That's vindictive, Michael asserted, his voice hard. No, Michael. Vindictive would be altering the trust to leave everything to charity, which I am empowered to do as trustee. I will not take that route. I am honoring your father's wishes that you eventually inherit Meryl, but I am also honoring his wishes that I be taken care of, something none of you appeared to care about this morning. Sarah wiped her tears, acknowledging, I understand. We hurt you. We failed you. We're sorry. I appreciate the apology, Sarah, but apologies do not erase the fact that when I was at my lowest, struggling to keep the electricity on, my own children could not be bothered to help. You smirked and told me to figure it out. I returned to my chair and sat down. There is one more matter to address. You all suggested I sell my house, downsize to a smaller apartment, and relinquish the home where I raised you, filled with memories of your father. I have made a decision regarding that as well. They waited intently. I am keeping this house. I will renovate it. New kitchen, new bathrooms, new roof. I will transform it into precisely what I desire, and I will live here comfortably for as long as I am able. This is my home, and your father purchased it for me. No one will pressure me to leave. Michael clenched his jaw, Sarah gazed at the floor, and David appeared frozen. Now, I concluded, standing up, I believe this family meeting is over. You all have lives to resume, tuition to pay, summer houses to renovate, and financial advisors to consult. They rose slowly. Sarah approached, reaching out for a hug, but I stepped back. Not today, Sarah. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. At the door, David turned back. Mom, I truly am sorry. I was awful to you. What I said about the consequences of your choices was cruel. Yes, David, it was. Is there anything I can do to make this right? I looked at my youngest son, the little boy who once crawled into my lap with bad dreams, who brought me dandelions from the yard and declared them beautiful. You can learn from this, I replied quietly. Remember that money is not everything. Family matters. The individuals who love you and sacrifice for you deserve your respect and kindness. You can be better. He nodded, his eyes moist. I will be. I promise. After they left, I remained in my tranquil house. I contemplated calling my friend Barbara to share everything, but I chose not to. Instead, I sat there, clutching that trust checkbook, experiencing a feeling I had not known in years. Not triumph, not joy, but peace. The following morning, I paid my electricity bill. Then I scheduled an appointment with Patricia Reynolds, the financial advisor. She was wonderful, appalled by Frank's actions, eager to help me understand and manage the trust assets appropriately. I raised my monthly distribution $10,000. I hired a contractor to renovate my kitchen, purchased new clothes, and finally went to the dentist for that root canal. I resumed buying fresh flowers weekly and began donating to charities that assist older women facing financial difficulties, those who have been exploited and struggle to maintain their dignity and independence. I allocated $1,000 monthly to a local women's shelter and another $1,000 to a legal aid organization that aids seniors in combating financial abuse. It felt fulfilling to transform my pain into efforts that might benefit others. My children endeavored to rebuild our relationship. They called weekly, visited monthly, and sent flowers on my birthday. They became attentive and apologetic, and gradually, over time, I softened toward them. Not because they deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. However, I never forgot, and I did not alter my decision regarding the trust. The trust currently holds about $7.5 million, well managed and steadily growing. When I pass away, they will each inherit approximately $2.5 million, minus estate taxes. They will be fine. They will receive their inheritances, but they will never forget the day they advised their mother to figure it out, the day they prioritized luxury over compassion, the day they learned that sometimes the person you underestimate holds all the cards. They will also remember that their mother, the woman they dismissed, whose sacrifices they devalued, the woman they could not spare $250 for, possessed more dignity, strength, and power than they ever imagined. That is my story. That is the day everything changed. You know what? I sleep better now than I have in years, not solely because I no longer worry about finances, but because I stood up for myself. I refused to be dismissed and disrespected by the very individuals I devoted everything to raising. Sometimes, the best form of revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it is simply living well on your own terms with your head held high. And that is precisely what I am doing. Please subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you in the next video with love and respect.